Well, thanks, Chris. It's 9 a.m. here, and on this side of the world, we're waking up to the news that the State Department officially notified the UN just hours ago that the U.S. is formally leaving the Paris Agreement. Formally, because under the terms of the agreement, the U.S. can't depart until November 4th, 2020, the day after the next elections. So this is really just another chance to tell the president's supporters in the coal belt, the ones he addressed yesterday at a rally in West Virginia, that he's delivering on his campaign promise. But it's far more important than that. This is about the direction our country is heading in. There are a couple of things that are important to know about the Paris Agreement that may have been lost in all the rhetoric. One is that the agreement is non-binding. The other is that, until now, only two countries refused to sign it, Nicaragua and Syria. The U.S. has just formally joined that distinctly unexclusive club. Congratulations. The top-ranking American diplomat here in China quit his job 2 months ago. He simply couldn't understand or defend the decision to quit Paris. We have an exclusive interview with him later in the show. Some Americans believe that global warming is a hoax. We're not going to spend a second of this show discussing whether climate change is man-made or cyclical or caused by alien spacecraft, because frankly, it doesn't matter. A new world is coming, no matter what you believe. New economies, new businesses, a world of electric cars, and cheap, reliable solar energy. Here in China and all over the world, this isn't just some future plan. It's happening now. China is, to be sure, a super polluting and super polluted place. It burns more coal than any other country, and largely because of that, the air here in Beijing is basically not fit for humans to breathe. But in the past few years, both China and India have figured out that renewable energy is actually good business too. Both countries have enormous and very poor populations, and yet both plan to not only meet the goals set out in the Paris Agreement, but beat them. We're about to take you on a journey through Asia to see why China and India are racing ahead to embrace new technologies and making a killing in the process. Surprisingly, our journey to Asia begins, in all places, in Brooklyn.
Here come the red lights. And away they go for race 2 in the Qualcomm New York City E3. And already drivers are mixing it up.
Oh, right down the inside.
This is what speed sounds like now. Welcome to Formula E racing. All the adrenaline, all the excitement, with very little noise and zero emissions. And if you've never heard of electric car racing, you probably also haven't heard of Anand Mahindra.
And here come the Mahindra teammates,
whose team came in second and third in this recent race in Brooklyn. But in India, Mahindra is a household name. In a country known for poverty, spirituality, and some of the most congested streets on earth, he's a billionaire who drives a tiny, cheap, all-electric car called an E2O.
Sustainability is an opportunity to innovate dramatically. If you look at great leaps of innovation, they've come around a single movement or a development.
The E2O is not actually that innovative. In fact, it's about as basic as a car can be. But it's the only electric car made in India, and for young Sadhana, owning one is a dream come true. She couldn't wait for her father to sign the papers and for the whole family to climb in. They didn't think it was cramped or basic or slow. They thought it was the future. And so does Mahindra.
India has suffered in the past from a poverty of aspirations, not just simply from poverty of income or wealth. And that, happily, under this current regime, is being rectified. So you're going to see a lot of very ambitious goals being set.
Starting with the goal of replacing every single vehicle on India's roads with an electric by the year 2030, India's Prime Minister is big on moonshot goals. In 2015, he traveled to California to visit the Tesla factory and meet the world's most famous electric car pitchman, Elon Musk, who's planning to open a factory in India. Mahindra welcomes the competition. He recently called Musk out over Twitter. "Time you got over here, Elon," he wrote. "You don't want to leave the whole market to Mahindra, do you?" Good point, Musk replied, adding, because it's Twitter, a smiley face.
He made electric cars sexy. He made them desirable. He made them aspirational. That is what we need. They should not be seen as cars for geeky tree huggers anymore. They should be mainstream. And he helped do that. We have to acknowledge that.
Mahindra's cars, on the other hand, are not designed to be sexy. He's competing on price and scale. The cheapest Tesla, a new Model 3, can travel 3 times the distance the E2O covers on a single charge, but it also costs 3 times as much. And Mahindra believes his prices are going to drop fast.
The cost of electric cars is plummeting. Battery costs are currently about 2/3 of the value of an electric car. We expect them to go down to 1/3 very soon. So the tipping point between gasoline and electric cars is going to be reached sooner than people think.
The race to make batteries that last longer and cost less is on. Musk is focusing on quality, while Chinese manufacturers are focusing on quantity and price. Mahindra is happy to watch this race play out.
Now, when these elephants clash, it's actually very good for us. The old adage was you don't want to get in the way of elephants clashing. We love seeing elephants clash, particularly when they relate to the supply of batteries to this industry.
To see the impact that Chinese industry can have on an energy market, we traveled of all places to rural India. People here still use hand tools and primitive sources of energy, but just over the horizon, the future is already here.
India produces about 8% of its power from renewables like wind and solar. It's about the same percentage as the United States. But India has set as a national priority the goal of nearly tripling that number in just 5 years.
These solar panels are the fruits of American investment. 7 years ago, an Indian entrepreneur, Sumant Sinha, pitched Goldman Sachs on starting a wind farm in India. They gave him $250 million to get his company, Renewable, started. Now it's worth $2 billion.
We have almost about 60 facilities like this across different parts of rural India.
So 60
plants like this.
Sinha, who went to Columbia Business School in New York, says President Trump's basic assumption that good old coal is a better, cheaper source of energy than solar is out of date.
Renewable energy is becoming much cheaper than polluting sources of power generation. Maybe 3 years ago or 5 years ago, it might have been the correct statement to make, which is that cheaper sources of energy are more polluting. But today that is no longer the case.
new technologies.
Exactly, and you have solar and wind now that is far cheaper than any coal-based source of power.
Sinha is no eco-warrior. Both he and his investors were initially drawn in by subsidies offered by the government. The idea was, if you subsidize it, they will come. And this field of mirrors is proof that it worked. Now, market forces are doing the rest.
The most important thing that has happened is that the panels themselves have become cheaper. So they've come down to 1/3 of what they costed literally just 3 years ago.
With each generation of solar panels getting better and cheaper, creating a cycle in which demand and supply are both growing rapidly. We decided to next head to the engine that powers that cycle. China. This is the factory where the panels we saw in India are produced. The speed with which factories like this one have popped up is astonishing.
China now is the largest builder of wind farms and solar farms around the world, by far. They're building at least twice as fast as the United States. They've really taken over the world in terms of solar capacity and solar manufacturing. 66% or so of the solar panels that are sold around the world now are from China or Taiwan.
Alvin Lin is with the Natural Resource Defense Council. He says that China, which is one of the most polluting and polluted nations on Earth, changed course a decade ago and is now racing to become a green powerhouse.
Is it because they tried the other experience, choked on the bad air, and decided they can't do that anymore? Or is it a business opportunity? Or both?
It's both. It's both. China has always been using a lot of coal because it has a lot of coal. But back in 2006, they passed the Renewable Energy Law. And so that, for the first time, really set out these targets, this plan to support the development of wind and solar
China spent $102 billion on renewable energy in 2015. That's more than twice what the U.S. spent. And while President Trump talks about bringing back jobs in coal, China plans to spend even more on renewable energies over the next 3 years and create 13 million jobs in the process.
You look for the trends, you see where things are going, and you jump ahead and you take the leadership. And that's how you make money, that's how you create jobs. That's all China's doing, right? I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Chris DeAngelis is an American lawyer who works with large technology companies here in Beijing. He says while Americans argue about the science of climate change, the Chinese are racing ahead.
Whether or not you believe it, this is where the world's going, right? You take a very sort of business focus on it. They see where this is going. The whole world is going down this path, other than the U.S. right now, right? And it's an opportunity for them to lead. It's an opportunity to generate jobs. So they're killing it right now.
And it doesn't stop at solar panels. Remember that race to build better and cheaper batteries to power electric cars? Chinese factories like this one are ramping up production so quickly that they will soon be making enough batteries here to power about 1.5 million Tesla cars a year. For all of Musk's energy and innovation, he can't compete with China on his own.
China's environmental policies are way ahead of the U.S. Like their mandate for renewable energy far exceeds the U.S. I think sometimes people are under the impression that China is either dragging their feet or somehow behind the U.S. in terms of sustainable energy promotion, but they're by far the most aggressive on Earth.
Everyone says technology, technology, be creative, be an innovator, okay? And the fact is, in many ways, China almost views technology as a commodity now, right? They're like, we can buy it. We have tons of people. We can make it.
And not only in China. When the city of Los Angeles decided to switch its bus fleet to all electric, a new factory quickly opened up in the Mojave Desert. It's backed by Warren Buffett, but owned by a Chinese company. The first buses are already on the road in Lancaster, California. Another win for the Chinese way of doing renewables. Back in his office in Beijing, DeAngelis said American companies were inherently the underdogs in this race.
And we do have amazing pockets of technology all over the U.S., but it's that everybody on their own versus China, which is the entire country is like on the same mission.
DeAngelis has lived in China for the past 13 years. He has seen how quickly this ancient country is changing its ways. What he can't understand is why our president can't do the same.
All he does is talk about how he's going to get, coal jobs, right? It's an old world he's fighting for, right? It doesn't matter if you like it or not. The future's moving on, and the U.S. needs to accept that, right?
Is the U.S. going to miss the next sort of industrial revolution here?
The U.S. is still leading the world across almost every technology from a pure technology perspective. The question really is, does that matter?
Critics would say, we've heard all this before. Chinese were going to be eating our lunch. Didn't happen. Why is now any different?
Because now is what you're starting to see, I think, the result of 30, 40 years of planning of an entire nation aligned on one goal that, again, it's not like they're saying, in the next 5 years. They've been planning this for years. Their education system, their supply channels, everything. It's moving up through the system.
And they were waiting for this opportunity?
Yeah, this is, a 100-year plan, right?
So was Trump a gift to China?
I think so. I would be pretty happy if I was China.
There was at least one person here in Beijing who was not happy when the president dropped out of the Paris Agreement. He was that senior American diplomat we told you about, and he told me that forced to choose between his career and a policy he could not accept, his faith led him to the answer.
As a Christian, I'm not a theologian, but if we are stewards of creation, if we're charged with taking care of this earth, that means doing things to make that happen.
That story's still to come, but first, the president singled out one American city in his speech, saying he was elected to represent Pittsburgh, not Paris. Turns out, not everyone in Pittsburgh was happy about that. We'll have that story coming up next.